The first time my best friend kissed me, he apologized afterward because apparently it was homework. That happened 3 days after Mason Reed walked into my apartment carrying 2 coffees and the expression of a man about to ask me to help bury a body. At the time, I had no idea my week was headed toward kissing. I was still enjoying ignorance. It was Tuesday evening. I was on my couch wearing sweatpants that had survived college, eating cereal directly from the box because adulthood was mostly marketing. Mason dropped 1 coffee in front of me. "I need your help." I looked at the cup, then at him. "How illegal?" "What? You brought coffee before asking." "That's bribery." "It's not illegal." "Morally questionable." He sighed and sat beside me. Too close. Mason had never understood personal space, which was unfortunate because I had been secretly in love with him for almost 2 years. 2 years. 23 months, technically. Not that I counted. I absolutely counted. "What happened?" I asked. "I have a date Friday." My hand stopped halfway into the cereal box. There are sentences capable of producing immediate physical symptoms. "Your card was declined. We need to talk." "I have a date Friday." "Oh, excellent response, Logan." Very emotionally neutral. Mason rubbed the back of his neck. "With Emily." "Emily Parker." I knew Emily. Pretty. Funny. Smart. Disgustingly nice. Why couldn't he date someone terrible? Someone who collected human teeth. Someone I could reasonably hate. Instead, I smiled. "That's great." It came out almost convincing. "Yeah. Absolutely." Mason studied my face. I took a violent sip of coffee. "So why do you need me?" "I haven't been on a real date in a while." "You've dated." "I've gone places with people." "That's different." My mistake." "Your extensive history of accidentally eating dinner near attractive people." He shoved my shoulder. I hated how easily that tiny contact traveled through me. "I get weird," he admitted. "You are weird." "Helpful." "Always." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I overthink everything. What to say. Where to put my hands. Whether I'm making enough eye contact. Where to put your hands. Not like that." I didn't say anything. "Your face did." My face was a traitor. Mason looked down at his coffee, then back at me. "So I thought maybe I could practice." "Practice what?" "The date." I stared at him. "With who?" He stared back. "Oh, no. Absolutely not." "Mason, come on. You want me to pretend to be Emily?" "No." "Good, because I don't have the bone structure." He laughed. That low, warm laugh I had spent 2 years pretending did nothing to me. "I just need you to be you." That was somehow worse. What exactly does practice mean? Dinner. Conversation. Flirting, maybe. Maybe. And you tell me when I'm doing something stupid. I'll need a notebook. He ignored that. We do a full practice date. Start to finish. My heart began behaving suspiciously. "Mason, why me?" His answer came immediately. "Because I trust you." There it was. The sweetest possible knife. Of course he trusted me. I was Logan. Best friend Logan. Safe Logan. Help me impress someone else Logan. I looked at him. Friday. 3 days away. 72 hours until Mason went on a real date with Emily. 72 hours until all this became someone else's problem. I could survive that. Probably. Fine. His whole face brightened. Terrible decision confirmed. But we're establishing rules. Rules. Yes. I raised 1 finger. No kissing. Mason's eyebrow lifted. "I wasn't planning on kissing you." That hurt an unreasonable amount. Perfect. 2nd finger. "No unnecessary touching." What counts as necessary? I'll know it when I see it. That's not a rule. 3rd. I looked directly at him. "No making it weird." Mason smiled. "You're the one making rules about kissing me." I threw a couch pillow at his face. He caught it. Still smiling. "Tomorrow night?" he asked. "Tomorrow night." He stood and headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, Logan. What? Should I pick you up?" I laughed. Mason didn't. He was serious. Something warm and dangerous shifted beneath my ribs. "It's supposed to be realistic," he said. "Right. Realistic. Practice. Homework. Nothing more." "Sure," I said. Mason smiled and left. The door clicked shut. I stared at it for several seconds. Then I looked at the 3 fingers I still had raised. No kissing. No unnecessary touching. No making it weird. 3 rules. 72 hours. 1 best friend I had been secretly in love with for 2 years. This was going to go extremely well. Rule number 1 lasted approximately 11 minutes. Not the kissing rule. Thank God. I was emotionally unstable, not clinically dead. I meant the rule about not making things weird. Mason arrived at my apartment Wednesday evening at exactly 7 wearing dark jeans, a navy button-down, and enough cologne to make me reconsider every decision that had brought me to this moment. I opened the door, then forgot why doors existed. "Well," he asked. "Well, what? How do I look?" "Dangerous." This was already dangerous. I stepped back and examined him with the detached professionalism of a man absolutely not imagining what it would be like to undo the top button of his shirt. "Acceptable." Mason frowned. "Acceptable." "Solid 7. You stared at me for 5 seconds. I was looking for defects." "Find any?" "Several. None appropriate for conversation." "Your collar." I reached up before thinking. My fingers brushed his neck as I straightened it. Mason went still. So did I. Warm skin. 1 inch between us. His eyes dropped toward my hand. I immediately stepped back. "Necessary touching," I said. "Obviously." His mouth twitched. "Obviously." We drove to a small Italian restaurant across town because Mason insisted a practice date required a real restaurant. "This is ridiculous," I said as he opened the passenger door for me. "Get in. I can operate doors." "I'm practicing." "Right. Practice." I climbed out at the restaurant, and Mason placed his hand lightly against my lower back as we walked inside. Every thought in my head evaporated. I stopped. He stopped. "What?" "Hand." He looked down. "My hand." "On me." Mason removed it immediately. "Sorry. Too much. That should have made things easier." Instead, the absence of his hand felt strangely cold. "No. I mean, maybe. Depends." "On what?" "Whether you normally escort women into restaurants like a 19th century duke." Mason laughed and opened the door. "After you." Insufferable. Dinner was supposed to teach Mason conversation. This became difficult when I discovered he was already good at it. He asked questions, remembered answers, leaned forward when I spoke, actually listened. "Stop doing that," I said. "Doing what?" "Looking interested." Mason blinked. "Isn't that the point?" "Yes, but you're overperforming." "I'm listening to you." "Exactly." He laughed. I stabbed a piece of pasta. "Emily is doomed." Something changed in his expression. Tiny. Gone before I could identify it. "You think?" "You're attractive, attentive, employed. High standards. The dating market is brutal." His foot brushed mine beneath the table. Neither of us moved. My pulse climbed. 1 second. 2. 3. Mason looked at me. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." That was definitely something. "I'm practicing eye contact." "You've had eyes your whole life." "Apparently I've been using them wrong." He kept looking. For seconds. 5. I looked away first. Coward. After dinner, we walked along the river because Mason said a real date probably wouldn't end immediately after dessert. The night was cool, city lights trembling across black water. "How am I doing?" he asked. "Annoyingly well." Specific feedback, Logan. "Fine. You ask good questions. You don't talk about yourself too much." Door thing was excessive. Lower back thing. My body remembered instantly. Traitor. Borderline. And compliments. I glanced at him. "You haven't given me one." Mason stopped walking. I turned. "What?" He stepped closer. "Not dramatically. Just enough. Your eyes look really good tonight." Silence. My heart hit something important. Mason watched my face. "How was that?" "Terrible." "Really? Awful." "You're blushing." "It's cold." "Your ears are red too." "Medical condition." Mason smiled. "So it worked." Nothing worked. He started walking again, looking unbearably pleased with himself. I followed, furious at my own circulatory system. At my apartment door, Mason leaned against the frame. "Same time tomorrow?" "Why?" "More practice." "You did fine." I could improve. His gaze lingered on me. "Just slightly too long." "Unless you want to quit." I should have. Friday was getting closer. 48 hours. Emily waiting at the end of it. But then Mason smiled. "Tomorrow," I said. 7. 7. He turned to leave, then looked back. "By the way." "What now?" "Your eyes really did look good." He walked away before I could answer. I stood in the doorway, staring after him. Rule 1. No kissing. Safe. Rule 2. No unnecessary touching. Technically damaged. Rule 3. No making it weird. I closed the door and pressed my forehead against it. Rule 3 was dead. Thursday night began with Mason standing in my kitchen and saying, "Teach me how to flirt." I nearly dropped the glass in my hand. "Excuse me." "Flirting." I heard the word. "I'm questioning your decision to involve me." Mason leaned against the counter, looking irritatingly relaxed. You said I needed more practice. I said your door opening technique made you look like a Victorian duke. Exactly. Help me. Mason, I'm not qualified. You flirt. I laughed. With who? He paused. People. Excellent evidence. You know what I mean. Unfortunately, I did not. My romantic history consisted mostly of liking unavailable men and then developing elaborate coping mechanisms involving sarcasm. Mason pushed away from the counter. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. Compliment her. Did that yesterday. My face warmed. That was practice. It worked. My medical condition remains private. He smiled. What else? I sighed. Eye contact. Okay. Not creepy eye contact. Just hold it a little longer than normal. Mason looked directly at me. I immediately regretted everything. Like this. Sure. 1 second. 2. His eyes were hazel, which I knew already because I was a normal person who had definitely never spent 23 months cataloging the exact colors in them. 3 seconds. 4. You can stop now. You said longer than normal. We have exceeded normal. 5. Mason stepped closer. My spine met the kitchen counter. Mason. What? Personal space. I'm practicing. Of course he was. That phrase was rapidly becoming my least favorite combination of words. Then say something. I muttered. His gaze moved over my face. Slowly. You always do that with your mouth when you're nervous. My heart stumbled. Do what? Bite the inside of your lip. I stopped immediately. Mason smiled. That wasn't flirting. Could have fooled me. Was it good? No, you're blushing again. Central heating. Your apartment is freezing. Rare disease. He laughed, but he didn't move away. Neither did I. Bad. Very bad. Try a compliment, I said, mostly because silence had become dangerous. Mason considered me. You smell good. That's terrible. Why? Because it sounds like you're evaluating produce. Fine. He leaned slightly closer. I like being this close to you. My lungs resigned. That, I said carefully, is not a compliment. No, that's a statement. Did it work? We need to define work. His eyes dropped, just briefly, to my mouth. I saw it. He knew I saw it. The room became very quiet. Then Mason stepped back. Cold air filled the space between us. Okay, he said. Flirting lesson complete. I exhaled for what felt like the first time since Tuesday. Great. Congratulations. You can now emotionally destabilize Emily with professional efficiency. Mason's smile faded slightly. Right. Emily. Something about the way he said her name bothered me. Before I could examine it, he wandered into the living room and picked up his jacket. Actually, there's one more thing. No, you don't even know what it is. I've learned from experience. He rubbed the back of his neck. Nervous. Mason was nervous. That got my attention. What? I asked. It's stupid. Most things you say are. Thanks. He looked toward the window, then at me. What if the date goes well? My stomach tightened. That is generally the goal. I mean at the end. You say goodnight. Logan. Oh. My brain understood 1 second before my heart did. You mean kissing? Mason nodded. I haven't kissed anyone in a while. You'll remember. It's not open heart surgery. What if I'm bad? Then Emily survives a disappointing 15 seconds and eventually rebuilds. Mason laughed once, but the nervousness stayed. How do I know? Know what? He looked at me. If I'm doing it right. The air changed. Again, I should have made a joke. I should have reminded him of rule number 1. Instead, I stood there while Mason took one slow step toward me. Logan, he said quietly. Absolutely not. He stopped immediately. No argument. No teasing. Okay. That should have relieved me. It did. Mostly. Mason grabbed his jacket. Forget I asked. He smiled, but it wasn't his real smile. Then he left. The door closed behind him. I stood alone in my apartment, staring at the place where he had been. Friday was less than 24 hours away. Mason was going to kiss Emily. That was reality. Safe, miserable reality. So why was the only thought running through my head the one thing I had just refused to let happen? What would it have felt like if he kissed me? The problem with saying no to kissing your best friend was that afterward, your brain apparently became a full-time documentary filmmaker dedicated exclusively to imagining what you had refused. By Friday morning, I had reconstructed the scene 17 different ways. Mason stepping closer, his hand touching my jaw. His mouth, no, absolutely not. I rolled over and buried my face in my pillow. Tonight, Mason was taking Emily on a date. That should have fixed everything. Instead, my phone buzzed. Mason, emergency practice session. My heart immediately betrayed me. Logan, define emergency. Mason, coffee. Your place. 10 minutes. Logan, that's not an emergency. Mason, I'm bringing pastries. Logan, doors unlocked. I hated myself. 12 minutes later, Mason walked into my apartment carrying coffee and a paper bag. You said 10. Traffic. Unacceptable. I brought cinnamon rolls. Forgiven. He smiled, but something was off. Nervous energy sat beneath his usual calm. He put everything on the counter, then looked at me. About last night. My stomach tightened. We agreed to erase it from history. You agreed. Democracy. That's not democracy. It is in my apartment. Mason exhaled. I shouldn't have asked you. Good. Excellent. Wonderful. Why did that hurt? It's fine. I made you uncomfortable. You didn't. He studied me. You said absolutely not. Because it was a bad idea. Why? There are questions with safe answers. This was not one of them. Because I'm your friend. Mason's expression changed slightly. Right. He looked away. I should have stopped there. Instead, because self-destruction was apparently my hobby, I added, and you're going on a date with Emily tonight. Mason leaned back against the counter. So that's the problem? My pulse jumped. It's one of approximately 12 problems. What are the other 11? Classified. A tiny smile appeared. Silence settled between us. Then Mason said, one kiss. My heart stopped. Mason, not because I need you to. He raised both hands. You already said no. I'm not asking again. Then what are you saying? I'm saying I'm nervous. That softened something in me despite every survival instinct I possessed. Mason rubbed his thumb against the coffee cup. I keep thinking I'm going to get there tonight and freeze. You won't. How do you know? Because you're Mason. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He looked at me. Quiet. Vulnerable. Nothing like the man who had spent 2 days deliberately making me blush for sport. What if I mess it up? I sighed. Come here. His eyebrows lifted. What? Before I regained common sense. Mason didn't move. Logan, you don't have to, I know. That mattered. He had stopped when I said no. He hadn't pushed. Hadn't turned it into a joke. This stupidity was mine now. I stepped closer. One kiss. Mason swallowed. For practice. The words landed strangely between us. For practice, I said. He moved slowly enough that I could have changed my mind at any point. His fingers touched my jaw. Warm. Careful. My lungs forgot their assignment. Then his mouth met mine. Soft. Brief. Barely there. And somehow devastating. He pulled back after maybe 2 seconds. We stayed close. Too close. His thumb was still near my cheek. My hand had somehow found the front of his shirt. Neither of us spoke. Mason's eyes dropped to my mouth. Was that okay? He whispered. I should have stepped away. Instead, I heard myself ask, for practice? His gaze stayed on my lips. Sure. Oh, that was not an answer. Then he kissed me again. Not quite as careful this time. Still gentle, but longer. My fingers tightened against his shirt before my brain could stop them. Mason's other hand settled lightly at my waist. Rule 2 died peacefully. When we separated, both of us were breathing differently. You don't need practice, I said. Mason stared at me. No. No good. His hand remained at my waist for one dangerous second. Then he stepped back. The room suddenly felt enormous. Mason picked up his coffee. So, he said, voice slightly rough. Lesson complete? I forced a smile. Congratulations. Emily is doomed. There it was again. That tiny change in his face. Gone almost immediately. Right, he said. Emily. My phone showed 10:47 a.m., less than 9 hours until his date. Mason had just kissed me twice. Tonight, he was supposed to kiss someone else. And the worst part wasn't that I had broken rule number 1. It was that for those few seconds, nothing about kissing him had felt like practice. After the kiss, Mason developed a suspicious number of new skills he apparently needed to practice. At 12:14, he texted me. Mason, hand holding. Logan, what about it? Mason, is there a right way? Logan, you've had hands for 24 years. Mason, so that's a no? Logan, that is a cry for help. At 12:16, my doorbell rang. I opened the door. Mason stood there. You were downstairs? Maybe. You texted me from downstairs? I wanted consent before entering the educational facility. I stared at him. You're deeply annoying. Can we practice? Holding hands. Yeah. Why? What if Emily reaches for mine? There it was. Emily. The bucket of ice water attached to every warm moment. Fine. I held out my hand. Observe carefully. Advanced technique. Mason slipped his fingers through mine. Not palm against palm. Interlaced. Slowly. Warm fingers filling the spaces between mine. My sarcasm died on impact. Mason looked down at our hands. Like this. That's generally how fingers work. His thumb brushed across mine. Once. Necessary. I asked. I'm testing variables. You're a menace. He smiled but didn't let go. We ended up on the couch, still holding hands for reasons neither of us addressed. Then Mason apparently remembered another catastrophic deficiency. What about hugging goodbye? I turned toward him. You hug me all the time. Not date hugging. What the hell is date hugging? That's what I'm asking you. There is no certification process. Show me. Mason. Educational purposes. I should have thrown him out. Instead, I stood. Fine. Normal hug. I wrapped my arms around him quickly. 1 second. 2. Released. Done. Mason frowned. That felt like you were congratulating me on getting promoted. It's a hug. Try again. You're taking this disturbingly seriously. This time, when I stepped into him, Mason's arms settled around my waist. Mine went around his shoulders. His cheek brushed my temple. Warmth spread through me so quickly it was embarrassing. He smelled like coffee and that stupid cologne. I started to pull away. Mason didn't. Not immediately. His hand moved once against my back. Slow. Gentle. My heartbeat became loud enough to qualify as a third participant. Mason. Yeah. This is a long hug. I'm practicing duration. That's not a thing. Could be. I laughed against his shoulder. He finally released me, but his hands lingered at my sides. Anything else? I asked. His eyes flicked toward my mouth. My entire body noticed. No, he said. Liar. We spent the afternoon pretending none of this was strange. Mason insisted he might need to know how to slow dance if the restaurant had music. It did not. I checked. He still put on a song. This is unnecessary touching. I informed him as one hand settled at my waist. Educational exception. I don't remember approving amendments. Too late. My hand rested on his shoulder. His fingers tightened slightly at my side. We moved badly around my living room, laughing when I stepped on his foot. Then the laughter faded. Mason looked at me. I looked back. No flirting lesson. No joke. Just quiet. His forehead almost touched mine. Logan, he murmured. My heart leaned toward him before the rest of me could. Then his phone lit up on the coffee table. Emily. Can't wait for tonight, red heart. Everything inside me dropped. Mason stepped away. I did too. Reality returned with excellent timing. You should get ready, I said. Yeah. He didn't sound excited. That should have given me hope. I refused to take it. Mason collected his jacket. At the door, he hesitated. Thanks for all this. Sure. I mean it. Go impress her. Something tightened in his jaw. Right. He left. The apartment became painfully quiet. I looked at the couch where we'd held hands. The empty space where we'd danced. The doorway where he'd kissed me twice that morning. 3 days of practice. 3 days of Mason finding increasingly ridiculous reasons to touch me. And in less than 4 hours, he would be sitting across from Emily doing all the things I'd taught him. I dropped onto the couch and covered my face with both hands. Somewhere between teaching my best friend how to date someone else and discovering he already knew perfectly well how to hold my hand, I had made one catastrophic mistake. I had started hoping the practice wasn't practice at all. Friday evening arrived with a cruel amount of sunlight. The kind of golden, romantic light that made everything look like the beginning of a love story. Unfortunately, it wasn't mine. Mason stood in front of the mirror in my bedroom while I sat on the edge of the bed pretending my heart wasn't being slowly fed through an industrial shredder. Blue or black, he asked. He held up 2 shirts. Blue. You didn't even look. I've seen you in both. And blue makes your eyes look better. Mason went quiet. I immediately regretted having a mouth. For the date, I added. Obviously. Right. He chose blue. Of course he did. 10 minutes later, he was dressed, his hair fixed in that irritatingly effortless way that probably required actual effort, and I was standing in front of him adjusting his collar. Again. Apparently, this had become my job. My fingers brushed the side of his neck. Mason's eyes met mine in the mirror. Neither of us moved. Too tight. I asked. No good. I should have stepped back. I didn't. Mason turned slowly until he was facing me. The room felt smaller. How do I look? He asked. I swallowed. Perfect. Like every terrible decision I'd ever wanted to make. Like someone I had kissed twice that morning and had spent the entire day trying not to kiss again. You look like she's going to fall in love with you. The words hurt coming out. Mason's expression changed. Not happiness. Not nervous excitement. Something quieter. And you? My heart stumbled. What about me? Are you? Silence. Am I what? Mason looked at me for a long second. Then he shook his head. Nothing. Coward, I thought. I wasn't sure which one of us I meant. I stepped away. You should go? Reservations at 7:30, right? Yeah. He checked his watch. Right. Neither of us moved. This was ridiculous. He had a date. Emily was probably getting ready right now. I was his friend. His practice partner. His deeply underqualified romantic training dummy. Mason. Yeah. Go. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Wish me luck. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say don't go. I wanted to tell him I'd spent 2 years loving the way he laughed with his whole face when something genuinely surprised him. That I knew he hated olives, but always forgot to ask restaurants to remove them. That he rubbed the back of his neck when nervous and got quiet when something mattered too much. Instead, I said, good luck. Mason walked to the door. His hand rested on the knob. He looked back once. Then he left. Click. That was it. 72 hours reduced to the sound of a door closing. No countdown anymore. No tomorrow's practice. No ridiculous lessons. Just Friday. The real date. I stood there for another minute before returning to the living room. The apartment looked exactly the same. Somehow that offended me. The couch where we'd held hands. The patch of carpet where we'd slow danced for absolutely no legitimate reason. The kitchen counter where Mason had backed me into silence with 5 seconds of eye contact. I touched my mouth. Bad idea. I could still remember his kiss. Soft the first time. Less careful the second. Practice. I laughed once. It sounded pathetic. Congratulations, Logan. I dropped onto the couch. You successfully taught the man you love how to date somebody else. Saying it aloud was worse. Much worse. I grabbed the remote and turned on a movie. 10 minutes passed. I absorbed nothing. I checked my phone. 7:46. They were probably ordering drinks. 8:03. Appetizers. 8:19. Mason making Emily laugh. 8:37. Maybe his hand brushing hers across the table. Stop. I threw my phone onto the cushion. It buzzed almost immediately. I grabbed it. Noah. Wrong person. I dropped it again. By 8:51, I had reached the final stage of romantic humiliation, bargaining with furniture. If he doesn't text before 9, I'm moving on. The lamp offered no opinion. Healthy boundaries. 8:56, nothing. 8:58, nothing. 8:59, I stared at the clock. 9. There. Done. Mason was on his date. I would survive. Eventually. Then someone knocked on my door. 3 sharp knocks. My entire body froze. Another knock. I stood slowly and crossed the room. It couldn't be Mason. His date had barely started. I opened the door. Mason stood in the hallway, still wearing the blue shirt, hair slightly messy, breathing like he'd taken the stairs too fast. Alone. I stared at him. What happened? Mason looked directly at me. Emily asked me if there was somebody else. My heart stopped. And he stepped closer. I couldn't tell her no. I couldn't tell her no. For several seconds, I forgot how language worked. Mason stood in my doorway wearing the blue shirt I had chosen for him, his hair slightly windblown, his chest rising too quickly. Okay, I finally said. Brilliant. Pulitzer-level response. Mason stared at me. Okay. I'm processing. You look terrified. My best friend just abandoned a date and appeared at my apartment saying cryptic things. Terror feels proportionate. He glanced down the hallway. Can I come in? Right? Yes. I moved aside. Mason walked past me, and the familiar scent of his cologne followed him into the apartment. I closed the door. Suddenly, we were standing in the same room where we had practiced everything. Holding hands. Flirting. Dancing. Kissing. My nervous system remembered all of it simultaneously. Did something happen with Emily? I asked. Mason shoved both hands into his pockets. Nothing bad. Did she hate the restaurant? No. Did you spill wine on her? No. Call her the wrong name? Mason gave me a look. Logan, I'm narrowing possibilities. He exhaled. The date was good. That hurt more than expected. Oh, Emily was funny. We talked. Dinner was fine. Great. My voice came out flat. So you left a perfectly good date because? Mason looked toward the couch. She reached for my hand. My stomach tightened. Okay. And I thought about you. Silence. The apartment became painfully still. Mason continued before I could respond. Then she complimented my shirt. He looked down at the blue fabric. And I thought about you standing in your bedroom fixing my collar. My pulse started climbing. Mason. Then she asked why I kept checking my phone. Were you? Yeah. Why? His eyes met mine. Because I wanted you to text me. Oh. I took one step backward. Not because I wanted distance. Because my knees had suddenly become theoretical. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Mason almost laughed. You're going to explain my own date to me? I'm trying to prevent a misunderstanding. I think the misunderstanding has been happening for 3 days. My heart hit hard against my ribs. What does that mean? Mason rubbed the back of his neck. Nervous. Emily noticed. Noticed what? That every story I told somehow included you. I swallowed. We're best friends. That's what I said. See? Then she asked how long we'd been together. My mouth opened. Closed. Together? Apparently I talked about you like you were my boyfriend. Heat rushed into my face. You do not. According to Emily, I absolutely do. I needed to sit down. Instead, I remained standing because humiliation deserved proper posture. So what happened? Mason's expression softened. She asked if there was somebody else. And you couldn't say no. No, my heartbeat became loud. Because of me? Mason took a slow step closer. You really need me to answer that? Yes. No. Absolutely. I need you not to make decisions because 3 days of fake dating confused you. You think I'm confused? You were supposed to be practicing for Emily. I know. And now you've left her sitting in a restaurant because we kissed twice? She wasn't sitting there. We talked. I paid for dinner. She was actually very understanding. Of course she was. Even my romantic rival had excellent emotional regulation. That's not the point. Then what is? You have a date with someone you actually wanted, and now you're here. Mason's eyes sharpened. Actually wanted? Yes. Logan, I spent the entire date wishing I was back here. That shut me up. He stepped closer again. I kept thinking about holding your hand. Another step. About dancing with you. My breathing changed. About kissing you. He stopped in front of me. Close, but not touching. Just like before. Always giving me that last inch. So who is it? I whispered. Mason frowned. What? The somebody else. My voice barely worked. Emily asked if there was somebody else. Who is it? Mason stared at me as if I had just asked what color the sky was. Then his expression softened into something almost disbelieving. You really don't know? I couldn't answer. His eyes moved over my face, searching for something. Finding it, apparently. Mason stepped closer until the space between us became almost nothing. But he still didn't touch me. Logan, he said quietly. Who do you think I've actually been practicing for? Who do you think I've actually been practicing for? My brain received the sentence. Examined it. Rejected it as fraudulent. Emily. Mason closed his eyes. Logan. What? That was literally the assignment. You are unbelievably difficult. I'm trying to understand. I noticed. He stepped back, dragging a hand through his hair. Somehow the extra distance made breathing easier and everything else worse. At first, yes. It was for Emily. There. Reality. Miserable, reliable reality. Tuesday night. I genuinely thought I needed help. Mason looked at me. Then Wednesday happened. Dinner. You. My heartbeat stumbled. That's not an event. It was for me. Oh. Mason continued. You fixed my collar and nearly stopped breathing when I touched your back. I was surprised. You stared at me when I complimented your eyes. Medical condition. Right. Very serious. His mouth almost smiled. And when I went home, I kept thinking about it. About flirting? About flirting with you. The room suddenly felt too warm. Then why come back Thursday? Because I wanted to do it again. I stared. You said you needed practice. I lied. You. Not completely. That is still lying, Mason. I know. He looked appropriately guilty for approximately half a second. But you kept saying yes. Because I thought I was helping you. I know. With Emily. I know. You emotionally catfished me with educational objectives. Mason laughed. Actually laughed. This isn't funny. That sentence was a little funny. I folded my arms. What else? His smile faded. The eye contact lesson? I already knew how to make eye contact. Criminal. The hand-holding question was completely fake. You monster. I've been holding hands successfully since childhood. I trusted you. The slow dancing was worse. I pointed at him. I checked the restaurant. There was no dancing. I knew that. You knew? I checked too. I stared at him in horror. You invented an entire dancing emergency just to put your hand on my waist. His ears turned red. Interesting. Very interesting. When you say it like that, there is no flattering way to say it. I wanted to be close to you. That erased every joke waiting in my mouth. Mason's voice softened. And the kiss wasn't necessary. My pulse jumped. I know. No. I mean, I knew it wasn't necessary when I asked. Then why ask? He looked directly at me. Because I wanted to kiss you. Silence. My heart slammed once. Hard. You stopped when I said no. Of course I did. Then I kissed you the next morning. Yeah. Mason smiled faintly. That complicated things. For you, Logan. After that second kiss, I sat in my car for 15 minutes staring at the steering wheel. I blinked. Why? Because I was supposed to be going on a date with Emily, and all I could think about was whether you wanted me to kiss you again. I did. God, I did. So tonight, confirmed it. Confirmed what? Mason took one careful step toward me. That none of it felt fake with you. Another. Holding your hand felt more natural than holding hers. Another. Talking to you felt more like a date than the actual date. He stopped. And when Emily asked if there was someone else, I realized there was. My throat tightened. Me. You. Hearing it was different. Dangerous. Beautiful. Terrifying. I looked away. There's something you don't know. Mason waited. I could still run. Make a joke. Protect the friendship. Protect myself. I was exhausted from protecting myself. I didn't start liking you on Tuesday. Mason went completely still. What? I've been in love with you for almost 2 years. There. No clever line. No emergency exit. Just truth. Mason stared at me. 2 years. 23 months. His eyebrows lifted. You counted. This is not the important part. You counted. Mason. He laughed softly, but his eyes had gone warm. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were my best friend. Because I thought you didn't want me. Because wanting you secretly was safer than losing you publicly. His smile disappeared. He understood that. I could see it. Mason moved closer, but stopped before touching me. Then can I try something? My eyes dropped involuntarily to his mouth. What? Something I don't need practice for. Every nerve in my body woke up. Mason waited. No assumption. No excuse. No fake lesson between us anymore. I swallowed. Are you going to tell me what it is? His gaze fell to my lips. I think you already know. I think you already know. I did. That was the problem. Mason stood close enough that I could see the tiny shift in his expression when my eyes dropped to his mouth. No lesson. No Emily. No convenient excuse labeled practice. Just him. Just me. And 23 months of wanting something I had convinced myself I could never have. Logan. His voice softened. Yeah. Can I kiss you? My heart did something medically irresponsible. I tried to make a joke. Nothing came. Apparently sarcasm had finally abandoned me when I needed it most. Yes. Mason moved slowly. His hand touched my jaw, exactly like it had that morning, except everything felt different now. Intentional. His thumb brushed my cheek. Then he kissed me. The first kiss had been careful because we were pretending. This one was careful because we weren't. I grabbed the front of his blue shirt. Mason smiled against my mouth. What? I whispered. Nothing. You're smiling. You're holding my shirt. Necessary touching. He laughed softly, forehead resting against mine. Still enforcing the rules. Absolutely. You broke all 3. You corrupted the experiment. Educational purposes. I hate you. 23 months says otherwise. I groaned. I regret telling you that. I'm never letting it go. Then I'm taking it back. Too late. He kissed me again before I could argue. Longer this time. Warm and unhurried. His hand settled at my waist, and instead of analyzing whether the touch was necessary, I moved closer. When we finally separated, Mason looked slightly dazed. Good. At least humiliation was now mutual. So, I said, what happens now? Now. Yes. You abandoned your date, confessed to running a fraudulent romantic training program, and kissed your best friend. When you summarize it like that, I sound unstable. You are unstable. Mason considered this. Tomorrow morning. 10. I blinked. What? I'm taking you out. On another practice date? His expression changed immediately. No one word. No hesitation. A real one. Something inside my chest went painfully soft. You sure you're ready? Not remotely. I laughed. Mason smiled. But I think I'd rather be bad at this with you. That was unfairly good. Did you practice that line? No, damn. The next morning, someone knocked at exactly 10. I opened the door expecting Mason. I got Mason holding 2 coffees and a small bunch of yellow flowers. I stared at them, then at him. Flowers? Too much. Possibly. I can put them back in the car. Touch them and you die. His grin widened. Noted. I took the flowers. Where are we going? Breakfast. You planned something? I made a reservation. Who are you? And what have you done with my socially incompetent best friend? Mason offered his hand. Come find out. I looked at it. 3 days earlier, holding that hand had been an exercise. Something temporary. Something meant to prepare him for somebody else. Now there was no assignment waiting at the end of it. I slid my fingers through his. Mason squeezed gently. Ready? No, good. Good. Now we match. Breakfast was objectively less smooth than our practice date. Mason nearly knocked over his coffee. I forgot what I was saying twice because he smiled at me. We argued about pancakes. He reached across the table and stole a strawberry from my plate. Terrible date etiquette, I said. I need practice. I pointed my fork at him. Don't start. He laughed. Under the table, his knee rested against mine. Neither of us moved it. After breakfast, we walked through the park with our hands linked. No lesson attached. No stopwatch. No pretending. Mason stopped near the fountain. Can I tell you something embarrassing? Always. I almost canceled with Emily yesterday. Why didn't you? Because I thought I needed the date to figure out whether what I felt with you was real. I looked at him. And I figured it out before the appetizers. Efficient. She figured it out before I did. I like her. You would. He pulled me gently closer. You know what the worst part is? What? I spent 3 days asking you to teach me how to date. His fingers tightened around mine. And apparently, I was already dating the person I wanted. My throat tightened. You were terrible at it. I had a bad teacher. Rude. Mason kissed my temple. I smiled despite myself. The first time my best friend kissed me, he called it practice. The second time, we finally stopped pretending. And as Mason walked beside me, hand warm around mine, I realized the funniest part was that he had asked me to teach him how to make someone fall for him. He never needed the lessons. I had already fallen almost 2 years earlier.